I guess we're live. Hi.
Hello.
Well, welcome to the Right Now Show. I'm your host, Julie Dawn.
Valerie Ihsan.
And guest Anthony St. Clair, filling in for Joanna, but I'm afraid I will not be able to duplicate her dulcet Nigella Lawson tones.
Do you want to give it a try?
Not enough alcohol.
No.
Okay, so this is episode 6. Oh, thanks for joining us from Tsunami Books in Eugene, Oregon. Stop on by. It is lovely here, and they have tea.
And you can be part of our studio audience, which would be really cool, because then we wouldn't have to use a laugh track.
There we go. Oh, wait.
Bam.
Put that in the middle there.
Okay. All right, it's June 4th, and today we're talking about where book ideas come from, but first we're going to do our check-in. So,
So what did I do?
what did you do?
Oh, I did a lot of transplanting on the farm.
Ooh.
So
What did I do?
beginning of the week, I got a lot of words in.
Oh, good.
I've been,
Is this on the 70,000 project? Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
So it's the one I wasn't gonna do, and then Scrivener,
Decided.
yeah. So I heard back from Scrivener,
Oh,
and yeah, they're like basically you pay to use it to
Oh.
upgrade.
yeah.
So I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, well, it's back to Word anyway, because I'm always in Word because I always put it in Word before I format my interior.
Oh, okay.
Before,
Okay.
you know, the hard copy. So I'll just figure that all out later. While I'm at Writers, I was looking into going to the conference
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't been, and I'm like, yeah, I still don't know if I'm gonna swing it,
With the baby.
toting the baby around, you know. But they only had one agent that is interested in horror anyway.
Mm.
So I was like, come on, guys. And I tweeted them, and I was like, you know, you guys only have one horror thing. That's why I don't do conferences, because they never,
Yeah.
you know, it's like the underdog in the
Aw.
literary world.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense because hello, Stephen King. But so their response back was really warm and very sweet, and I was like, this is why I love Well I'm at Writers, you know,
Exactly.
not just because I get to like go to AA meetings for writers, which is what I call it, but you know, it's a great group of people.
Yes.
So
Last week, I did finally send off my pages to Tex Thompson, the instructor extraordinaire, and hopefully I'll be talking with her Tuesday about the results. So we'll see what she thought of my first 15 pages. I know there's work that needs to be done, but after you work on it for so long, you can't see what's wrong with it. Like, I just know there's something wrong with it, but I can't find what's wrong with it. So hopefully another set of eyes will help. So what about you? What'd you do this week?
Oh my gosh.
Or last week, I guess.
It was a pretty big week last week. I finished going through feedback, my copy editor's feedback on my 5th book. So that is now like about this close to being ready for
Ooh,
proofing
that's exciting.
and almost
Yeah.
ready to just be like, okay, manuscript will be locked, no touch.
Locked and loaded.
Yeah. And then I started drafting, will be the 6th book in my Rucksack Universe series. No, I'm sorry, no, the 7th, because the 6th, my chief reader is about to start going through. And then on the kind of article side of my writing as well, I just kind of finalized. I've got like 8 assignments due this month for different articles, so
Man.
it's going to be a lot of tip tap tapping. Yeah.
Wow. So your chief reader,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say that when I know who your chief reader is chief reader
All
reading
knowledge will be disavowed.
Cloud Fortress?
Yeah, she'll
or
be
Wander?
reading Cloud Fortress.
Wander
is the one that is about to go into proof, and that's going to
Okay.
Wander's going to be kind of a prequel to the series.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
chief reader,
Is about to start
Has-
reading Cloud Fortress,
okay.
which will be
and then you've started drafting a new one?
the 7th.
Whoa!
Yeah.
This is a prolific dude. I'm still like peddling my same.
So how many series? 2 series?
It's
Just
one
one.
series.
One series.
There are
And you're in
there are
number
currently
7.
2 novellas and 2 novels in it.
Okay.
Wander will be like a prequel that kind of takes place in the timeline in advance of all the others.
Okay.
novel
and
length or novella?
This one will be a novel length.
Okay.
Yeah. The next ones I've got planned are novel length.
Okay.
Yeah, then Cloud Fortress kind of takes place in between a couple of other things, and that's really going to mess with you, Valerie.
Man, I can't wait till the next ones come out.
And then this
They're
one that I
good
just
reads.
started on is kind of this kind of picks things up. It's like the series is non-sequential, but there's still like some reading order to it if you want there to be. So kind of picking up on a few unanswered questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very awesome. Okay. Do you want to read the question of the week?
Okay, so question of the week is writing organization, which and why? So,
Okay. So you already said that you were in Willamette Writers.
yes, I've been in a critique group that's pretty large. It was like 7-8 people. We would meet every other Monday, and you really have to put in like the time for something like that because you're reading 3 other people's work and then critiquing it, and then but it was awesome. I mean, it was
Hats off to you
worth.
for making the time to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do you
I
wanna
saw
read that
baby tipping forward. I didn't see that he was
He's strapped
in.
one? So I've done a critique group, which I also think your organizations at different times in your life can change. I found that I outgrew my writers group
Totally.
right around when
Yeah.
I was moving, so that kind of gave me an easy out, because it was hard thinking about how am I gonna not
Be part of that
be,
anymore.
yeah,
and,
because it was
and,
amazing. for, like,
and nicely break up and say we can still be friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them, I still talk to, and one of them wants to do a write-in, and I was like, okay, maybe. I was like, depending on baby's schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
Trying to reach it. We have kiwi feeding happening over here. Numminess.
The director.
yes.
I am also in Willamette Writers. I love coming to their monthly meetings, and I co-chaired them for 7 years. I think I counted, and you did that with
and then
me
we
for
co-chaired
3.
together for I think it was 3 years.
And so I stepped down last year because I started teaching. So I was putting my time and energy into that. Other writing organizations that I've been in, I can't think of any off the top of my head, and I'll probably end this live streaming YouTube show and think, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't say blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So
It's like the Emmys.
I have been in write and critique groups before, and actually the kind of critique group, I used to have a weekly critique group too, and I was in that for about 10 years and kind of felt like it no longer fit my writing process, so I had to figure out a way to disengage from that without stepping on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
And it was, emotional because you were with these same people every week for 10 years. Like, that's a lot
And
of...
you're trying to provide all this mutual support for each
Right,
other. And
right,
that's hard to
right,
step
right.
away from.
It is, but I started another one that fits my needs better now. So now, and this is one we meet monthly and we read each other's manuscripts in full. So it's like a book club,
Oh yeah.
but we're first readers.
Yep.
First readers book club. We call it Alpha Readers Club. So, all right. What about you?
So 2 that I'll mention. One is broader. I'm part of the Alliance of Independent Authors, or ALLI for short, ALLI. I was drawn to that organization in part because I found them to be really useful for just making good decisions as an author who is also heading up so much of the publishing side of the business. As a lot of people watching this will know, there are so many pitfalls and shysters out there. And I found this organization to be very useful to kind of tread through that minefield carefully and make good choices about providers. The caliber of people I find in there too, it's a really nice range. You've got people who are just trying to really figure out indie publishing, how to make good business decisions. But then as you get more advanced, there's still a lot of support and resources. So as you've got a few books that, you know how to get that book all the way from not just the manuscript, but to, like I know how to upload stuff on all these different platforms, and I know how to manage an ISBN and set up pricing and all this stuff. It's been a really good support for that.
They also have a watchdog program.
Yes, that's a lot of what I found handy too, to say, okay, yeah, here's a bunch of stuff I don't need to worry about. Here's where I can hone in for what is my sweet spot for the like channels I'm going to work through and whatnot. That's been really useful. And they also do a lot of different guides on helping authors, like, how do you talk to a bookstore to get your book in there, or how do you work with different platforms or libraries, or there's other things they're doing that are more future facing with in terms of looking at blockchain technologies and other kind of AI and higher technology things coming down that could have a lot of ramifications for an author. So that's an organization I like a great deal. And on kind of a tighter niche, another hat I wear is as a beer writer. That's some of the 8 articles I'm doing this month. But there's a kind of a trade guild called the North American Guild of Beer Writers. So I'm also part of that, and they provide a bit of like support and just some kind of mutual promotion for different members as we work in different communities covering different parts of the industry in our respective areas and all of that. So pretty good bunch of people there too.
Cool. All right. Well, we need to get to our main topic. Was there any other writing organizations that you thought of in the interim?
No, I've tried a couple different like Facebook group ones, and then I find that like instead of being on there, I could be writing. So I try to keep myself off of there as much as possible. I'm like, no,
I hadn't thought of that. There are several. This isn't a writing organization per se, I guess, but I do listen to a lot of industry podcasts. So a lot of publishing podcasts and author podcasts I listen to, and they often have a Facebook group, so I'll buy the course from the guy that teaches the thing, and I'm in that Facebook group. So I do have some Facebook group stuff, but I'm not in it a lot. Like I'll get some notifications and I'll go on there every once in a while and read stuff or answer stuff, but I don't hang out there very much, I guess. But they're really good resources for people that don't have a community of authors to hang out with, like we are doing right now.
Yeah.
You can come be part of right now.
Exactly.
You can be in our studio audience, and then you could engage with us, and we could be your writing organization.
I have found there is a like moms writers group that I joined, which has been kind of interesting because it's been how do you balance it. When I first started writing, my kids were like toddlers, so I didn't have the infant stage. So I'm like maneuvering that. Yes, I am.
River has something to say about that.
I'll tell you some stuff about writers groups.
So main topic today is where book ideas come from. Lots of people ask this question.
Yeah.
I see that it's a frequent question asked. I've been to workshops where teachers talk about this for 90 minutes, and we don't have 90 minutes to talk about it, but we can give you a couple of ideas in the next 10, 15 minutes. Does anybody have a burning desire to start?
No, I was kind of doing the TED Talk thing, like looking through, like, where's some inspiration for points and
for nonfiction or fiction?
Just in finding inspirational new ideas.
Oh, okay.
Kind of period. It was, all about his researching that. But I thought it was interesting. When I end up doing research, I end up going down this hole, and then I'm like, oh, that looks nice. Where some good ideas come from. And he started talking about how ideas and New Age thinking started during the Enlightenment era.
This is a specific TED Talk you watched? Who was the person?
It was Stephen Johnson.
Okay.
And it was like, where do new ideas form? And he was talking about how the general population was pretty much drunk all the time because the water was dirty, and they created these coffee houses. So it would give people a different thing to drink during the day, so they'd be sober for part of the day. So then that sparked all these new ideas because they were
medicated on caffeine.
Yes. They went from a depressant to a stimulant.
Caffeine is where you get your book ideas.
So they started talking about these packed coffee houses. And I was thinking, that's so interesting because that's one of the reasons I love Eugene. Is because of the coffee houses,
Oh,
and you
yes.
can go out and you can
It's so
meet
easy to
writers
get a
and
good
write.
cuppa and meet people.
And
Mm-hmm.
I moved to the East Coast, for like 9 months recently, and it was nothing but like Dunkin' Donuts, and I was like, oh, just kind of like nursing in a public bathroom. I was like, come on.
This is not Eugene.
Yeah, it was like I needed to go back because just for the whole writing atmosphere,
Yeah. When I think about writing ideas, and when you asked me about coming on and was telling me the topic, I started thinking about this a lot. And I guess I look at it from a perspective of, there's always that expression about how truth is stranger than fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So I come at it from a view of we just have such a diverse and varied and often kind of nuts world that there's all the inspiration you need just all over the place. There's this great bit in one of the Terry Pratchett's Discworld books where this guy who's a cop talks about how the trouble with clues is that they're everywhere. You can trip over the bloody things if you're not careful.
That's good.
And I think it's kind of the same deal with ideas. There are ideas everywhere. It's more a matter of how you're paying attention. I mean, it can come from anything from a news article to something you overhear in a coffee shop to some vexing question you've been wondering. There's so many things, but I've gotten ideas from just looking at a map, or actually Sunday morning I woke up and my wife was like, What's up with you? I'm like, I had the craziest dream and there's a trilogy in it.
Nice.
So to me it's more a matter of what are you paying attention to? And what are you giving space in your mind to say, oh,
writing that down.
Okay, what if? Or as a colleague of ours likes to say, oh, that's interesting. Well, what if this goes wrong?
Oh.
You can get stories galore from just the what happens when X goes wrong.
What happens when X is wrong? I start with character usually.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be waking or not sleeping, just laying in bed, kind of insomniaing. Is that a verb? Insomniaing.
We're writers. We get to create our own words.
And
that's a thing.
And a character will come to me and start talking to me, and I'll listen to the story that he's telling me, and I'll write it down later. Or one time, I was really having trouble getting a book idea. Like I'd get an idea and I'd write a few chapters, and I'd get an idea and I'd write a few chapters, and it would do the same thing. And finally, I was like, okay, fine. And I did a little ritual. I lit incense, and I got all relaxed, and I sat down in my room. Nobody else was home, and I had my journal and like these oracle cards, and I was like, okay, who wants to tell me a story or their story? Mm-hmm. Who wants to tell me their story? And I drew a card, and it was the green woman from the fairy oracle deck, and that was totally Catherine. Catherine came and told me her story, and that was the character from The Scent of Apple Tea, my first novel. So sometimes it's usually a character that comes to me and wants to tell me a story.
I can totally
and that's happened also in other mediums too. I used to do a lot of sculpture and pottery and ceramics, and I was working on this bust, and I had an idea in my head, not anywhere else, just in the head, okay, I want it to look like this. And so I'd start it and it didn't work. So I smashed it down and I redid it and it didn't work. And finally I was like, okay, fine. And I just let whoever wanted to come out. It was totally not what I wanted, but it was a completed thing, and so I think it's just that characters come.
That's definitely
and tell their story.
And I mean, it can be character first, it can be plot first. Sometimes when I'll get an idea for a book, I kind of liken it to falling in love. You see so many people, and then now and again, you might encounter someone that just makes you stop. And that's happened with me with a lot of ideas over the years. My brain will be buzzing along, I'm doing my normal things throughout the day, and then some weird little collision of this observation or that thought or this thing suddenly hits, and I'm just like, wait a minute. Hang on. Ponder. Okay, scribble.
Scribble.
And it starts coming together. Like one idea, you were asking earlier about this 6th book, Cloud Fortress. The idea for that came to me last summer. My 6-year-old son and I we were flying to Virginia to see my family, and we're somewhere over the country, and we were looking out the window talking about the different clouds, and he was asking me all these different questions, and we were talking about what we see. And there, I don't know if I forget now if it was a particular shape or formation, but just something in my brain went clouds and a fortress. What do you have? Fortress, clouds. And it's like, yes, son. Yep. Keep talking. Yep. Yep. We're chatting. And I just had to go. And the next thing I knew, before I knew it, I had a fleshed out book idea.
Nice.
Yeah. So to me, it always comes back to that question of paying attention, giving it that time to start poking at it and looking at it and saying, oh, well, okay. Well, then if this happens, then kind of the character thing. Okay, well, who's that? And if they're doing that, well, who's someone who's different from them? And how do they oppose? And how do they come together? And all these little pieces start showing up. You're just doing a jigsaw puzzle without the box.
Right. Also, that we've been talking about fiction so far, but if you're working on nonfiction projects, if you already have clientele, or if you already have a following of people for some other job that you do, and you might get book ideas from serving that population. For instance, Joanna Penn wrote The Successful
Author Mindset. Or
was it that one? Yeah, that one came from a blog post. She wrote a blog post about author mindset, and that was going to be it. That's all she planned. But then there was enough chatter afterwards in the comments boxes that she was like, wow, I guess there's way more to this than I thought. Let me write a book. So she would get ideas from her audience.
Oh, yeah.
And then
a lot of time with nonfiction, it comes down to what is that question that someone needs an answer? What is that pain point that someone feels that I can offer perspective on or solution to?
And that's also where your memoir idea came from too, right?
It was kind of...
We've talked about it before on the show.
Yeah.
So... And that's where
the memoir, it's kind of, there's all these women are told this inaccurate stuff by their doctors that is blatantly against, like, even their guidelines. And we kind of wanted to do it to educate people and to share the story of, like, how much crap you have to go to accomplish any kind of dreams that you want to fulfill.
The baby toe right here. It's part of the dream right there.
That's
right. What else? We still have a couple more minutes. We don't have to take another minute, but we can. Any more ideas about where book ideas come from?
I know that you get those book ideas and they form, which you think is sometimes out of nowhere, which isn't. It's below the soil, which you can't see yet. And you're watering and watering. How do you know which time to stop letting those ideas come in if they're not for your current story? The shiny new projects of...
I always find that it's okay to take that moment and say, okay, let me give a little time here just to run this down. But it is easy to always want to go off on the shiny new thing and shout squirrel. Mm-hmm. I think it's also a matter of just how dedicated you're letting yourself be to a project. I mean, the reality is that it can be quite okay to work on multiple projects at once. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that as long as you are figuring out how to balance that. I mean, I do not have the luxury of just sitting down and working just whole hog on, say, one book at a time. I've got to balance, like, drafting a book. I'm also now looking into developing this trilogy idea that I woke up with yesterday morning.
Thank you very much, imagination.
Yes. And then I've got a bunch of articles to do, so all the ancillary work that comes along with that. And then there are clients that I do content for and whatnot. So there can already be a lot of that mix. So I think you can make that space, but you just have to understand that. It's like, okay, yeah, I can take some time to work on this little thing, and then okay, and then I need to come back to this. And it's just a matter of figuring out that balancing act.
I think also the strength of the impression that the idea gave you, like if it would just blows you away, yeah, I would probably stop and like write up an outline or something and then get back to the project at hand. But if it was just like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea, maybe that warrants a post-it note little.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you tuck that away for another time.
Right, yeah. So I think probably just the power of the inspiration. And then also just inspiration, like you said, where does inspiration come from? How do you even get inspired? So what are those things that fill your own creative well? You know, and oftentimes people say this all the time too, like, oh, I was in the shower or I was washing dishes or I was walking the dog and this idea came to me. So doing those like monotonous things, letting your mind wander.
Yeah.
Giving yourself the space and the permission to let your mind wander, to just sit and daydream and not do anything. That's part of our job as writers.
Yeah, I mean, we focused in on a lot of just the initial part of a much bigger process, because where ideas come from is one thing, but it's then okay, where am I going to take this idea, or where will we go together? What is the fruition that this will come to? That's kind of the other important component of, okay, I have the idea. Is this an idea that needs the time in my life to come to whatever full form it needs to be? Or is it just like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool, but yeah, another time. I think that kind of that excitement level also comes into play. Again, it's a little like the falling in love. It's like you see that person who kind of makes you stop. Well, then do you go up and try to talk to them, or do you just move on?
Wait for the next thing.
Yeah.
Stick with the thing you're with. Or...
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think it's time to wrap up and talk about what we're doing this week. Do you have plans for this week? What are you working on this week?
This week, I'm drafting the 7th book in the series. I'm underway on that. I'm taking some time to develop out some of the trilogy, kind of at a higher level at this point, because I don't know that I'm going to start full on with that right now, but I want to get at least some high-level sense of what the story could look like. I have a deadline on Wednesday that I'll be meeting, and a few other articles I'll be working on. And I'll be giving Wander one more pass before I send it back over to I use the same person for copy editing and proofreading. So he's about to get the manuscript back after I give it one more just glance so that he can proof it, and then that'll be ready to move into publication.
And you'll pick your launch day then, yeah?
Yeah, that's one of the things planned for this week, is to discuss that.
Do you typically put it on pre-order? And for how long?
I've been experimenting with it. It's been kind of a moving target on how long.
Okay.
I pretty much decided that I won't do anything with pre-order stuff until I know what the publication date is going to be, and just basically once the manuscript is locked, then I think I can get a time frame. Usually I'm probably going to have it aim for, I don't know, I might do like maybe a month or two out. I don't know yet. Somewhere along those lines, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And since you are a guest of our show, we want to make sure that everyone knows where people can find you online.
Oh.
So
Yes.
pitch yourself.
Sure. So I'm Anthony St. Clair. You can find my website, which has all of my books, articles, different stuff with client work and whatnot, at anthonystclair.com. That's ANTHONYSTCLAIR.com. It's St. Clair, not Sinclair, as my grandma in Virginia likes to say. We're saints, not sinners. What grandma doesn't know won't hurt her. And then I'm on pretty much all the socials. You can just look up my name and I'll pop up somewhere.
You can also look up Rucksack Universe.
Yes.
Awesome. What are you doing this week?
So I am doing more transplants, and hopefully I am fluffing the story. It's kind of the point again where like I finally fallen back in love with it.
Oh,
Nice.
yay!
After it
Sometimes you have to have a break.
Yeah.
You know.
So and it's like head over heels. I can't fall asleep, and I'm like looking out the window, like just. So yeah, it's good, and I'm getting like thousands of words when I sit down, which is amazing considering how crazy life is right now. But yeah.
That's the other key component, though. It's one thing to have ideas, but you've also got to show up
Yeah.
and still sit down.
That's
and whatever
the difference between a
process
writer and
works for
an
you.
author.
Ooh, The difference. I like that. That's
90%
interesting.
of success is still showing up, no matter what.
I am teaching a class this Thursday morning, how to write a novel. We're going to be focusing on character and theme, and so I'm going to be working on the syllabus for that and the PowerPoint slides.
Nice.
So that's going to be my author business thing for this week. And next week, our show is on June 11th, and we'll be talking about writing processes and how we write, how we get it done, what it looks like.
How do we get it done?
How do we get it done, River? So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel. We are Valerie Ihsan.
Anthony St. Clair.
Julie Dunn.
And we'll see you next Monday at 11:11. Now,
Go
right now. You have to keep smiling because, come on, it's still recording. There we go.